Good morning, good afternoon, and a very happy Friday, guys. We did it. We made it to the end of the week, even though it was technically a shorter week than we usually have. It just felt longer. Let me welcome one of my co-hosts today. It is Salty Texas C. Great to see you.
Great to see you. Happy Friday to you, Purple, and happy Friday to chat.
Happy Friday, yes, and what a chat we've got. It's great to see you guys. Let's see who we've got. We've got Brandon. He says, Salty.
Brandon is doing some great work. Can I just say that if you guys haven't subbed to Brandon, and he gave me $5 to say this, by the way, go subscribe to his channel. He does some great work on anime, and he is turning me on to stuff that I kind of shied away from. And given the drought of good storytelling, boy, anime has some damn good stories.
It is. I think that's one of the things that it's worth talking about today when we really get into the topic at hand. Anime has been picking up the slack that mainstream comics has been dropping. So well done, anime.
And
And
not just the slack, but also billions of dollars in addition to that.
that comes with it exactly. Who knew that giving your audience what they actually wanted would generate
Oh,
revenue?
yeah, that just sounds so patriarchal. It has to be changed. We all have to go broke and be woke.
Let's see who else we've got. We've got Ren Zero. He says, I think if Purple actually recreated that skirt scene, people in chat would die or blind themselves, perhaps. Yes.
Oh, I don't know. I just saw The Northman last night, and there was a woman on that show who has the most porcelain white skin I've ever seen. And if that didn't blind me, I'm sure your lovely hue would be just fine.
Yes, we can talk a little bit about the Northman because I know everybody's starting to see it, and I just cannot wait to get everyone's opinion on it. Let's see who else we've got. Keely Chow, roll tide Keely. We've got the comic relief crusader. He says, "My body is prepared." Hell yes.
Greased up with Crisco and ready to go. I love it.
We've got Lord Duff, great to see you. We've got Dave G Sound, hello, love, great to see you. Decepticons, Cable, Villains, hello, good morning, great to see you. Let's see, we've got the lovely Gun Bunny, hello, sweetheart. We've got Ronan Racketer, who has joined us, great to see you, good morning. Or good afternoon. We have got Syllabdul Inc. Great to see you as always. So he had great things to say about Salty yesterday, so thank you.
Thank you. No, Sil Abdul, I've been checking your stuff out, dude. I'd love to talk with you sometime. And I know you don't want to come on our woo-woo show where we talk about UFOs and stuff, but I still think it'd be fun to have you on there and get your perspective on that. That's all I'm going to say.
That would be amazing. We're getting these fantastic crossover streams at the moment. I absolutely love it. It is so good to work with more and more people. Let me just make sure I'm not missing everybody. I think I got everybody so far. Jim the Viking, I missed. Good afternoon. And Nearsighted Cyclops, great to see you. And Chris Wood, hello, my love, great to see you as well.
Brightest Day was in the chat under an assumed name because he's in the witness protection program now. I can't go into details, but he is. I just wanted to call out Brightest Day. Hail to you, brother.
Yes, another one with a fantastic channel. And we've got Psychodwarf 9. Hello, love. Great to see you as always. And Timon Flip, great to see you. TZ Burton, guys. And Larry. Haven't seen you for a while. Hello, sweetheart. So, what I wanted to talk about today, and I know this is a topic that's kind of been doing the rounds at the moment, as somebody said quite correctly, Max von Priestley, hey! And so, Max, if you'd like to join us, I'll send you the link, because I know this is right up your alley as well. Great to see you, Max. Good morning. Now, pretty much we're all comic book fans, I would say, to varying degrees. We've all grown up reading and, we all have our favourites, and for the longest time, I would say the two big ones that everybody gravitated towards were, of course, Marvel and DC, mainly because of the amazing roster of characters that they had. Even if you weren't really a superhero fan, there were still characters that you could find and that you could love.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I liked when I was a kid in the 70s and 80s was World War II comics. Sergeant Rock, these really great sort of little comic book runs of actual battles from World War II. I love those type of characters. And in addition, of course, I loved Superman and I love Batman, but it's that was the thing when before comics became an ideological tool was you
Hmm.
could just you could drop a quarter, you could drop 45 cents and you could have a lot of fun just getting lost in not just in the story, but in what then was really beautiful art. And today I'm not seeing a lot of that beautiful art unless it's in the independent space.
Yes, that's one of the things I've noticed, and we've talked about this in the past as well. It really is the independents that are doing the work, and really giving the customers what they want. We've seen it time and time again. With campaigns and things that people have put out. They've put the work in, and they're getting the recognition that they deserve from the customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's wild. I think it was a couple weeks ago. I forget whose show it was on, but I actually went to my small local comic book shop, and it's just this great guy. He had his kids there with him in the shop. They were like about 11 or 12, and they're playing like old Nintendo games. Like Duck Hunt, old school, and just the nicest guy, and just was going through all of the back issues and just finding all of these amazing things. Like I picked up a run of uh, the comic book versions of the original Indiana Jones movie. It was a 4-run
Nice.
series, and I hadn't seen that since I was 11 when the movie came out. And it's like it doesn't matter what age you are; you can just have fun with good stories. However, man, there's nothing that's coming out of Marvel and DC that I want to do anything more with, and maybe start a campfire. I don't know how else to say it.
And that's a really sad way to look at it, because like you say, for the longest time I was a huge fan. I grew up reading Batman. Batman was my go-to comic book hero, even though I had a great love for Marvel as well. But do you think it is because of the way that they've decided to go? Now, in the past, things oops, we've had things like uh, fake outs that they've done with various
Oh,
characters, with the deaths.
yeah,
We've had
yeah,
weddings. We've had uh,
yeah.
big crossovers that people never asked for. Now that was the kind of back in the day where people started to say, we don't really want this. And then as we've gotten closer, and as time has gone on, things just have seemed to have gotten more and more progressive, I think would probably be the best way to say it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. I mean, and this analogy has been said many, many times. There were a lot of shows. There were a
Hmm.
lot of shows, and there were a lot of comics that, at the time, would have had what one could consider to be progressive with a little p. And yes, run with that in chat. A little p, progressive. Oh God, I should think before I speak. But the comics were always representative of a more humanist side, where it was against the system, it was against corruption, it was about the little guy or they, them, or whatever the pronouns are, succeeding, overcoming obstacles. And now it's a broad generalization, but it's true, is that these just seem like they're sledgehammers of one agenda. And that agenda seems, number one, to want to smash what existed before in the most laziest of ways. Like,
Hmm.
we're gonna turn somebody gay, we're gonna turn somebody asexual, we're gonna make someone this. I mean, children. These are children playing with somebody else's action figures, making up stories, and saying that these action figures are now what is in their imagination. And it's really insulting, especially to those of us who were born well into the 20th century and have a very different experience of a whole lot of canon that seems to have been completely forgotten for God knows why.
Yes, and that's one of the things we've talked about. And it's not just seen in comics, we've seen it pretty much across the board. Whatever anybody was interested in, it seems to have gone this way. We have people come in and they want to make changes. And once you kind of push back against those changes, then out come the names, you're a bigot, you're an ist, you're a phobe. And I think comics is one of those genres where you really see one, it was a big pushback from fans, and two,
Yeah.
the vitriol that came at them when they did push back and say, you know what, I don't want to buy this anymore, I will take my money elsewhere.
Yeah, I just reached on the shelf behind me and grabbed some of the comic books, Purple, that I got, and some of them are some pretty wild, and they're beaten up Silver Age because these are just reader copies. But I have a Marvel Comics. It's an Avengers Marvel triple action, and it has the most amazing artwork. Guess what the price is on the cover? 20 cents, and it's just you have Captain America, you have
Mhm.
Hawkeye, Quicksilver, and the Scarlet Witch. You could give this comic book to anybody. You could give this comic book to a 4-year-old who doesn't speak English in another country, anywhere around the world, and I'm sure they would sit down and be just entranced by this and probably get really excited. I think if you gave that same 4-year-old a current year DC or Marvel comic book, I mean, they might look at it, but I don't think it. I still am convinced of this that it wouldn't move them the same way that good stories in the classic comic books moved us. I think that
Mhm.
that's transcendent.
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that. And, in the past, comics have been kind of put down, they've been looked upon as very kind of lowbrow entertainment, especially, I suppose, people from growing up from the 60s and 70s onwards. But I don't think you can overestimate or underestimate the importance of them because they taught kids how to read. If
Yes.
something like this actually got kids reading and then they moved on to novels or whatever it is that kind of sparked their imagination, so many people that I know said they started with comic books.
The other part of it too is it's not just say increasing literacy. It's really about reinforcing what our values are in Western society. And I know it's just a funny book that you could walk anywhere, grocery store, 7-Eleven, pick up a comic book. But it was always the hero's journey. Now it
Hmm.
might not be, and it might not be the fully defined 12-step, 11-step of that journey, but it was always about good overcoming evil. It was about the struggle to do the right thing. It was about having to make sacrifices to do the right thing. It was always reinforcing this message of this is what a hero is. And I believe, as a consequence of that, because I'm Gen X, it helped shape who our generation was and the kind of world that we lived in.
Hmm.
That is also why I'm convinced that it started in comic books, and I'm not the one who said this, many large channels have, that the comic book messaging of deconstructing that hero. Well, what is the next generation getting? What do they think a hero is? Well, a hero is a perpetual victim who needs to smash the patriarchy, who's neo-Marxist and is entitled to everything. And it's like that is not the hero's journey. So this is probably not the place to talk about it, but man, every one of these forms of entertainment that a lot of us are rejecting, I think we're rejecting it because we know this is social engineering. Now, it's ham fisted and stupid, and there's a lot of talentless hacks. And I'm looking at you, Amazon Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. But it's just like we're not imagining this. We're really not. And it's the thing is, it's not being effective. And to make a really big jump of logic, I think that's part of the reason why Netflix and Disney are going down in flames right now is we are refusing to swallow that poison anymore. Am I being unfair?
I don't think so. I think, as you say, we've talked about this, and this isn't, an isolated incident. This is pretty much across the board, and uh, I think people in the chat are definitely agreeing. We've got people saying that they've been, fans of comics for as long as they remember. Psychodraw says, "I'm sick of media making women into men and men into mulch." That is
Bingo.
another huge issue, another massive problem. That we're seeing, over and over again. Pushing down of male heroes and even male villains as well
Yeah.
in to raise up the female characters, and guys don't want this, women don't want this either.
No, I mean, and the crazy thing is Psycho Dwarf 9 isn't wrong. The other part of it too is they're taking women and they're removing what they consider to be weakness, which is being feminine.
Hmm.
I've known a lot of women who wore really nice dresses and smelled good, who could beat the living hell out of a lot of people and have that mama bear complex in protecting their own children. Not only that, but who looks at a strong feminine woman, and I'm talking about a feminine woman who is not pretending to be something she's not, and
Hmm.
finds that problematic. What kind of weird, twisted psyche do you have? And the flip side of that is then taking men and then feminizing them, but not I mean, making them beta isn't. We don't have the words yet. I think in our thesaurus and how to address this. And this is yet another thing I've been thinking about trying to really get to the bottom of is it's emasculation, but it's also it's a feminization. But there's another level to this where it's stripping out what we biologically were programmed to be as human beings. And that to me is what's so horrifying about this. And that's why so many of us are rejecting this entertainment. It is not at a cellular genetic level. We as human beings know what we're being sold here is entirely wrong.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I think that's why we're seeing, a much bigger and much more vocal pushback now, and people are, quite rightly so, voting with their wallets. And we've said this before, if you and even we've heard it from the comic book creators themselves, you don't like my product, don't buy it, and so we didn't.
Yeah, that was I loved watching that person's face over the last couple of years going, yeah, my industry's dying and I don't know why. Talk about a profound lack of self-awareness. I bet she's a lot of fun to probably have Christmas with and talk politics with. I bet. Yeah.
Yes, can you imagine Thanksgiving? Yeah, I bet it would be an absolute hoot.
Oh boy, yeah.
Could I just say a massive thank you and also an apology to Daniel? I think I missed one of your super chats on Wednesday, but what I will do is I will go back and address it. So thank you so much for that. But today he says, in the 90s, I could rifle off comic artist names at the drop of a hat. Now the only name I know is a manga artist. The art is bleh and the story is grim.
Yeah.
And that's another big issue as well. They're so focused on preaching to people. They've got these grandiose stories. There is no fun anymore in comics. Whereas before, you think of all the wacky stories that we used to have. With even very serious characters like Batman would have some very off the wall stories and story arcs.
Yeah, and Daniel's not wrong. And it was funny when he was talking about those names. Is how many of us over the years have watched whenever on the big channels they even vaguely mention anime or manga, and then the chat goes crazy with I love this, I love that, check out this. I mean, it's like, do you see that in any way with anything Marvel or DC is putting out? I don't see any passion for current year at all.
Not anymore. No, absolutely. And Ronan Rakitor says I started having issues after McFarlane, Lee, Liefeld, Valentino, Silvestri, Larson, Portaccio left Marvel and started Image. The reasons why they left. Absolutely. And to be fair, McFarlane is one of the few really big names out there that are still producing a really top quality comic book. His Spawn comics are still selling incredibly well. One, because he hasn't gone woke from what I've seen. King Spawn, from what I've heard, is a great run. And two, he never jacked up the prices of his comics.
Yeah, and I'm looking at that list of names, and just losing one or two of those people, boy, you're in trouble. But to lose the totality of that talent. Now, I'm not intimately familiar with every one of those artists, but I know a lot of them, and I know their artwork. But to lose that many people, and then to pretend that you're in a healthy industry and whatever you're doing at a management level is working, that's delusion and insanity. And can I just call somebody out in chat, Purple?
Please do.
I can't tell if we have the MVP-ness or if it is the MVP-ness in the chat. Hail to you. Max, it's great to see you lurking. Go see the Northman. That's all I'm gonna say. Go see the Northman. And hail to Keely Chow as well. You guys, sorry I'm not reaching out. I'm doing double duty over here, but you have the best chats, Purple. This is wonderful.
We do. We have an amazing chat, and it's so good to see everybody this morning. Let me say a very good morning because we've had some fantastic people join us. We've got Magitech Mags. Hello, sweetheart. She also sent us a super sticker, and it's a Shiba Inu with the hearts coming out. So thank you so much, and a very happy birthday to your dad today. I hope he's having a fantastic day.
Happy birthday. Did you guys check out, and I'm just going to do this, Purple saying happy birthday on the live stream on Tuesday. And it was stirring. I'm just going to say it was very stirring. It was very, very well done. It was very feminine, and it was quite beautiful to one of my channel members. So, if you haven't checked out the Tuesday live stream, whew, it is worth listening to Purple Valkyrie sing "Happy Birthday." And I remember Maxfield von Priestley's face, where it was just like, "Whoa."
Oh, we love Max. He is such a good guy. But thank you. Love the Tuesday shows. I think we're really having a fantastic time getting to talk about all these amazing topics. So thank you. Let's see. We've got Makini Draws. He says, "Good morning, Purple. Good morning, honey. Great to see you as well." Let's see. We've got Punk Waddle. Great to see you, Punk Waddle. Hello, sweetheart. Good morning. We've got Shane Nolan. Hello, Shane. Everybody rolling in. Great to see you. We've got the Bat Channel. He says, "Purple."
it's the 20 exclamation points. If it was only 19, you know he wouldn't be sincere. But to have 20, you know that's a legit excitement. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm excited as well. So great to see you. Andy Masterson brings up a really good point as well. He says, "When I was little, I dreamed of being John Byrne." Yes, how many people, especially people artistically inclined, had these heroes that they looked up to. I absolutely love the work of Tim Sale, for example. I love his art style. I loved Paul Dini's work and his style as well of characters. So there were so many people that growing up, and I'm sure people out there try to emulate their style with varying degrees of success. But it's so sad we don't have, as you were saying, these really big names in comic books anymore that people really gravitate towards.
Yeah, and I remember as a kid, it wasn't just comic books that were entertaining. They actually used the comics forum to teach history here in the States. You could buy these little, and they were like 6-inch by 4-inch. They were little tiny, very dense books with a lot of illustrations, and they were on American history and also all of the classic novels, so that you could go through these tiny little books done on pulp paper and they were just, ink illustrations. But that as a visual meeting helped really, to me, build the love that I have for literature. When you're younger, you're not going to read, Sherlock Holmes, a dense book, or, Mark Twain. But to get a really good, faithful adaptation of the source material.
A what now?
Sorry, I was just reinforcing the patriarchy again. A really good adaptation of the source material, and to do it at a basic level with good illustrations. To me, that is one thing that I wish we could just make mandatory. Not learning about gender and sexuality when you're in kindergarten, but actually getting these small little graphic novel stories that show this is where you come from. This is the rich history, culturally and from a literature perspective, that you're coming from in the Western world. And God, I'm going to stop talking because I don't want to get your channel in trouble. But there's so much more we should be telling young children. It has nothing to do with grooming, just to say that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And whereas in the past we had these comics and they could be, as you say, they were moral stories. You talk passionately about the hero's journey and how these heroes, especially comic book heroes, had to overcome obstacles. We've had basically Superman's character torn apart, whereas in the past these characters, these heroes, were something that people strive to be. The whole idea of comic book characters and comic book superheroes are something that you would want to emulate. They are, if not physically, then morally they are somebody, or people that are the absolute best in us.
You have a freeloader in chat by the name of Zax who says that he wishes he could join us today, but he's too busy having fun with other people. So whatever, Zax. You just big time purple like that. Whatever, dude. That's all I'm gonna say.
Good morning, Zax, honey. Great to see you. Happy Friday. Let me say thank you to TZ Bun. Great to see you. Says careful, Salty Texas. Mexican Iron Man has a flying suit. He has to defend purple,
I'm not the one you have to worry about. You have to worry about Snowdub and Puff and Nico Glock. There's a bizarre love triangle here, you guys, on Tuesday night. The insanity and the this woman, I'm not saying she's a heartbreaker, but boy, she is in high demand, especially from the stoner puppet crowd. It is crazy to watch. Just gonna say that.
Ah, the craziness. Yes, I love it. And shout out to Snowdub as well, in case he's listening. Such a good guy. Great to see
Yeah.
you. Let me say welcome to Noel Leighton Flores. Great to see you. Good morning. Let's see who else we've got. We've got Psychodorf. He says, I specifically collected Frank Miller. I
Oh, yeah.
love Frank Miller. Frank Miller's
Yeah.
such a great writer. And I know he's technically been cancelled now because of a book that he did about 10 years ago that people really had issue with. But there is a reason he made that book. But there is... You can separate the art from the artist, and I think his body of work really does speak for itself. I am a huge fan of Frank Miller, and probably always will be. The same with Alan Moore as well, another person that's kind of fallen from grace when it comes to comics. But he has written some of the greatest stories that I can think of.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when The Dark Knight Returns came out as a graphic novel, and I was in high school at that time, playing Dungeons and Dragons, eating pizza, drinking Mountain Dew until 4 o'clock in the morning, and all of us passing that novel around and being absolutely blown away. And the ending of that graphic novel with Superman and Batman is, and then of course you had the Green Arrow in there.
Yes.
It blew my mind. And here we are, what is it, 30, 40 years later, let's say 30, because I don't feel that old. It still holds up. And no one can convince me, that all of these cancellations have nothing to do with moral purity. They have to do with trying to replace things that are absolutely timeless with mediocrity and transitory leftist stories. I think we were talking about it the other night, but from a social media perspective, or with this woke moral purity code thing, your worst enemy when you're a moderate or a conservative, or when you're a liberal or a progressive or a social nut job like these people, the SJW, your worst enemy isn't a conservative or a moderate. It's another wackadoodle liberal, because the rules keep changing, and you might not be woke enough tomorrow, and they're going to come after you. It's just crazy.
That's it. And how many times have we seen them, turn up on each other when somebody kind of doesn't follow the whatever line it is that they're spewing this time? They are more than happy to turn on each other and eat each other, and it's kind of sad to see.
It is what intersectionalism does. It divides everybody up, and it builds that pyramid of victimhood, and everybody celebrates it, and everybody's clamoring to be the least capable, the least learned, the least productive, to somehow get I've been trying to figure it out for 30 years, since PC culture in college, and here's a spoiler: it doesn't work. It destroys systems, and that's it. And then we rise from the ashes.
It does, and I think we're getting to that point. I think people are really kind of fed up of what we've got, and we've seen, at least over the last 10 years, sales have really dropped with mainstream comics. People, as you correctly said, and people have said in the chat, they're moving towards manga, they're moving towards independent creators. What is it do you think will take, or even if they can, to get back this goodwill?
I think it's you mean the mainstream industries that have been doing this? Or...
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Mainstream comics, what would it take to get back to the viewership that they once had?
Multiple full-page ads in major publications. I think going to comic book shops. I think where they need to start is the comic book shops they've destroyed, and essentially giving them unbelievable credit terms, and just and promising that they're going to produce a product that will actually sell. I think the comic book shop has kind of been like a car dealership that has been presented nothing but cars that only run for until you drive them off the parking lot, and are chronically flawed and are a waste of time and money and aren't safe. And imagine being a car dealer who that's the only inventory you had. And I think that's what DC Marvel have been doing for the last decade. And again, I stepped away from this after the mid late 90s, but I can go when I was at my comic book shop last week, and I looked at some of the titles and I'm like, it looks like stuff that kids I knew in middle school drew, back in the 80s. It looks like things that were sketched in our spiral mead notebooks. And somehow these people are in charge of Batman. They're in charge of Aqualad. God. Did you see they're doing Aqualad, by the way? Did you see that?
Did. I said, what on earth are they thinking? I mean, it's not a surprise, but still.
I can't wait for transsexual gay sex with fish on Netflix. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
And that's the problem. You know exactly that's where they're going to take it. It's like, oh, guys, please stop.
I mean, what are they going to do? Like get a Tracy Chapman soundtrack with the Indigo Girls? I mean, it's just all of this is so ridiculous. That's all I'm going to say.
It really is, and I think it's it's going to take something huge to really stop this. Now, hopefully, we've been talking, and I've been talking with Sil. There is this huge kind of shake-up coming and restructuring, at least with DC, where they're attempting to kind of bring everything under this one umbrella, and this includes the comics. So if they can get somebody in charge of that division who really knows what they're doing and really has a passion for bringing these characters back, I think DC at least have a chance. But Marvel seem to be absolutely intent on just destroying their own legacy.
Yeah, and I really didn't answer your question. What is it going to take to bring people back? Well, I think number one is they have to get loans from large financial organizations that don't include stipulations of including these messages in those loan packages. Now, we're not going to talk about that, but I'd say that's the first thing. I'd say the second thing too is to get rid of the cool kids in charge of these companies and to bring the nerds back, bring the dorks, bring the people that aren't the cool people, that don't hashtag whatever the NPC download of the day is, that want to tell the stories and the characters. You have to start with that, and then hire people who love the characters more than they love themselves and hearing themselves talk on social media. And that to me, that's the start. And where you go from there, that's a big second step. That's all I'm going to say,
It is, yeah, and they've got the work cut out for them, I think, is the best way to kind of say it. But let me also say a thank you to Ren Zero and good afternoon. He says, great stream. Hope you catch the chat this time. I'm doing my best. So thank you, honey. I really appreciate that.
Your chat is on fire today. It is fantastic. You have 43 people watching right now, and you have 46 upvotes. You guys, if you haven't already done it, please hit that thumbs up for Purple Valkyrie. She and I were talking before the show because she had to have a shift in topic, and we didn't know what we were going to talk about, and here we are, and we can't stop talking. So it's wonderful to work with Purple Valkyrie. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you for the invite.
You're welcome. Thank you. And absolutely thank you, everyone, for joining us so far. Having a blast this morning. Good morning to Bram Bull. Great to see you as always. And also great to see Mexican Iron Man. Good morning, puppy. He says mainstream comic books cannot be saved. I currently have literally stacks Indiegogo Comicsgate books that I've collected over 3 years. And that is where, that is where people are spending their money, and rightly so. That
absolutely.
is, because as we have said, this is where people are getting what they want. It is the indie creators that are actually, delivering on the promises and, giving the great stories that people are actually craving. So thank you, Mexican Iron Man. And let me bring in another guest this morning. Let me hide that down. Let me welcome Nick. Good morning. Great to see you.
Sorry, I got the time mixed up. I thought it was like an hour later than it was supposed to be. So.
Oh no, don't worry about it. Honestly, honey, I know that with the time difference, it messes people up. So I thought, well,
yeah,
if you can join, we would be honored to have you. And it is great to see you. Good morning. Let me welcome you and introduce you to Salty Texas Sea.
Hey, Nick, what's going on? And I just want to say your lighting looks good. Don't worry about it. You've got this awesome, like, light slanted shade thing going across your chest. It really looks like a much better uniform than they have in Star Trek Discovery. So brilliant lighting. I'm just going to say that.
I mean, honestly, if they had just smeared crap all over their bodies, it would have been a better uniform.
Well, that's what they did in the last episode. So I don't know if you saw that one or not, but never mind.
I'm not a fan of STDs, so I try to avoid it.
Yeah.
Wise decision, I think there.
Yes.
Let me just address Daniel. He says Purple was the one girl in the comic shop that would have been swarmed if all the guys weren't terrified to approach her. I wish, but just to kind of you know how girls say, you know, we never felt welcome in a comic book shop. You know, we never wanted to be there because we always get weird stares. Never happened. Never felt unwelcome in any comic book store or gaming store I've ever been in. So I'm calling BS on that one.
Yeah. Well, it's the victimhood. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was about to say, anytime I've seen a girl enter a gaming space, she's always been super welcome. Like, people were like, "Hey, let me show you this stuff. Like, you want to play with us? Cool. Be you know, kind of stuff." Like, that's what I've always seen.
Yeah, I mean, if we did anything, we weirded girls out because we were so excited to show them Dungeons and Dragons and our lead figures in our 20-sided dice. Oh, and have you seen The Princess Bride? And have you seen Blade Runner? And that's what scared them off. It had nothing to do with lurid leers, although maybe there was some. But can I shout somebody out, Purple? You've got that 70s rock fan in the chat. One of the greatest guys, one of the coolest channels, always talking about old school music, his experiences, bringing other people on. If you haven't subbed to that 70s rock fan, do the man a solid. Check him out. Go subscribe, please. Just going to say that. Hail to you, brother.
Absolutely great to see you, and good morning. So, Nick, we've been talking about this, and let me get your perspective as a you know, creator, somebody who knows the industry, somebody who presumably has been a fan of comics for a very long time. What's your take on mainstream comics, just before we kind of get into your work and what you've produced?
They need to get the head out of their ass, first and foremost. The problem really is, and this is kind of something that I'm kind of been working on a YouTube video about, is what you're seeing is these people come in, they have no love for the source material, they're just using it as a stepping stone for another career. You know, they come in, they write, they want to make their mark, they want to virtue signal and whatnot. They want to, you know, jump onto like a Vanity Fair or New York Times gig. It's not about the comics, it's about what's next for them, and you know, it's what you're seeing as the result.
Yes, it does seem to be, and Salty was talking about this, the whole, you know, progressive thing. There's no love for the actual source material or the characters. It's just a stepping stone to whatever next part of their career they're going for. And we've seen it in the gaming industry as well. And if you don't have the love for what you're talking about, that's when it starts to fall about.
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question from a narrative perspective, leaving the politics out of it, just from a story perspective? Say, you know, the traditional 3-act play, the hero's journey. Did I overstate the fact that they simply don't know how the hell to write a story anymore, or what's your perspective on what's going on in mainstream comics?
In my opinion, I think there's a lack of subtlety in a lot of mainstream comics these days. Because yes, you know, they like to hammer. Politics has always been part of stories, and yes, that is true. But like, if you look back to, like, for example, my favorite thing, one of my favorite things ever is Twilight Zone, which is highly political. But the thing is, they always kind of masked a degree of subtlety. People don't like to be preached to. They don't like to be told what to think. Suggested, you know, say, hey, maybe try this way, or being shown, you know, like look at the classic Monsters Are on Maple Street episode of the Twilight Zone. You know,
such a good episode. Yes.
Which basically its message is, you know, don't, you know, like the whole beware of strangers, the whole Red Scare thing. You know, they didn't hammer it home like, you know, kind of stuff. It was more subtle. It showed you what not to do. And I kind of feel like a lot of these writers lack that kind of, you know, it's too in your face. It's too pushing it forward. It's and people are just turned off by it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's just, I think the agenda is number one, but to me, it just seems like a lack of talent. It really does,
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Let me just quickly grab the super chat again from Daniel. Thank you, sweetheart. He says it will take a full open apology for the past 2 decades from the big two, then a universe reboot back to the pre-2000s, and a removal of every self-insert SJW character. There is no fixing this mess.
That's a tall order.
Yeah.
Why don't you just take a Molotov cocktail to the DC office, throw it, and say, "Hey, the last 10 years never happened. Let's just start over."
Well, that may happen with what's going on with this restructure. And I would also add to this, Daniel, that Kelly Sue DeConnick needs to put "I Heart Trump" bumper stickers all over her car. That's the only problem.
This is something that, and rightly so, that Daniel's brought up, and Psychodorf has mentioned it as well, saying stop the self-inserts. Is this a relatively new phenomenon that we've seen? Because it seems to be cropping up more and more recently.
Maybe not a new thing, but definitely it's been ramping up, like you said, in the past decade or so.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's bizarre. I mean, on one hand, I can kind of see why people do it. It's almost like a kind of fan fiction, but it seems that every time people do it, especially recently, it's really badly done. I mean, if you think of the Starfire one, with her daughter,
Gotham High, or what
Gotham
was it?
High.
Yeah,
Yes.
with the gay Alfred in Hong Kong. Yeah, I mean, okay, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
At first, it's one of those things where you hear it and you think it's parody, but knowing what they've been doing, it's like, I can actually see them doing that.
Nick, what do you think makes a good main character in a comic book? What are the top 3 qualities that you think make a
top
good
3? Relatability, like because the audience needs to see themselves in the character. Nuance, nuance of like the characterization, their backstory, and whatnot, and honestly, good design. It's like notice I put design like last because a lot of people put design first and then don't forget about everything else. But you also got to have nuance and relatability, and those two are really important. They seem to kind of go by the wayside.
It's fascinating because if we compare that with what we're getting from DC, Marvel, and others, that it's a self-insert, so the audience doesn't see themselves. The audience sees the creator. Mm-hmm. We need good nuanced writing, and they don't have the talent to do it. And then the artwork isn't very good. So boy, why are DC and Marvel in trouble again? I can't figure it out.
I mean, it's the reason why Twilight sold so well. Like, that's kind of the dirty little secret of Twilight, to where, is the book crap? Yes. But does it have a psychological hook that is brilliant? Also, yes. Because Bella is written so plainly. She has no description that the reader basically can put themselves in Bella's role. It's like, they're not, like, Bella's not getting romanced by Edward. The reader is. And that's really why people really connected with Twilight as much as they did, is because they were able to literally put themselves in Bella's shoes. So, like, that's really why Twilight was so successful.
Yeah, and what's really great about those movies, and this is some inside baseball, is the original casting was a block of wood, but the block of wood was busy, so they went to the second choice, which was Kristen Stewart. So
honestly, the block of wood would have been a better actor.
I know. It had a previous commitment. It was going to be used to built a doghouse, and they had to go with the backup plan of Kristen Stewart.
It was a downgrade. The block of wood probably would have. Oh, I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, don't go there.
It's one thing to insult acting ability, but looks, that's kind of getting a bit too far.
Let's just say, can I make a confession and say that I've never seen any of the Twilight films?
And you're better for it.
Really? Because people have recommended to them for just to watch, ironically, but yeah.
I haven't either. So yeah. But I'm a guy, so it's a little bit different.
I would do a watch party with you, Purple, and because I lived very close to Forks, Washington, I used to go through Forks all the time, and Port Angeles, which is featured in that story with her going there all the time. The actual bookstores that are referenced, I used to go to those all the time. And there was Twilight stuff everywhere and pictures of the owners with, you know, the author of these books, who's a kind person. And she actually donated a ton of money to Forks, Washington, and built a brand new high school and all these other things. So something good did come out of that Twilight series. But it certainly did nothing for vampires. I'm just going to say that.
I'm sure Forks doesn't mind all the tourist money.
Oh, no.
I can imagine that. And we've got some great comments coming in. Leah Rose talking about late girls in comic book stores. She said, that's true. My brothers never wanted to take me to a comic book store because I was a tomboy. I preferred G.I. Joe instead of Barbie, but I went on my own and still had a good time and collection. That is fantastic.
That was such a great comic and such a great animated series from back in the day.
It really was. I loved it. I was a Masters of the Universe fan. That was my big thing when I was growing up.
I'm so sorry that you had to go through Revelation.
Oh yeah, God. It was a hell of a thing. I mean, it was fun to make fun of, but at the same time, because they tied it so closely to the 80s, it was like, no, Kevin Smith, just no.
Yeah, honestly, Revelations is kind of another classic example of person creates a show, it doesn't go over well, so instead of being honest and taking this criticism, they blame the fans and just make the situation worse.
Yes, exactly. And this, as you say, and people, Dioberg has pointed out as well, you know, it's if you don't like my politics, then don't buy my book.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, people turn away from it and then...
Surprise Pikachu face.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, what the hell? Why aren't you buying my books, you bigots?
Exactly. I love it. I love the cycle because it's just so freaking predictable.
Yeah. If I bully and shame you, you're going to give me money. What a business model. I mean, literally, like, why isn't it working again? This is just...
I called you bigots. I called you man babies. Why are you supporting my product?
I got 150 upvotes on Twitter from people who have anime, multiple little progressive symbols in their Twitter tags. Why am I not a millionaire? I don't understand. Is that really the thinking we're talking about? Because it looks like it to me.
It does seem to be, yes, and as you and as Nick correctly points out, you know, time and time again, they seem surprised by the backlash that they get. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But let me say a big thank you and welcome and good afternoon to Paul Cook. Great to see you. It says, need to get back to classic comic book writing and art. Should be larger than life characters. I would agree with that. You know, we were talking about it earlier. You know, the whole reason that people gravitated towards these characters in the first place is because they were supposed to be, you know, the ideal. They were something for people to strive to be, if not physically, then as people, they were the best of the best. You know, they encapsulated humanity's best attributes.
Why do you think Superman has been relevant for nearly 100 years now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Think about that. 1938, he premiered.
Yeah. And The Hobbit came out in 1938 too. Think about that one. And it's you know, some of this too is the people who created these characters, and they were predominantly men, but there were obviously women as well. Mm-hmm. What they had to go through in their lives, you know, especially a lot of people going through World War I in the case of Tolkien, and then obviously coming back from World War II, like a lot of creators that set up a lot of classic characters. Mm-hmm. These were people who had life experience. They saw things. They witnessed horror, not horror. And they also...
Well, I'm sure they also experienced that too. But
all right, fair. But they also witnessed cowardice, and they witnessed heroism, and they witnessed great rights and great wrongs, and they were able to take that life experience and then create characters with a very clear moral compass, and also with very clear definitions of right and wrong. And while I am not buying current day comics, it really does seem like a lot of these characters, these superheroes, are not very nice people. who don't seem very moral or very aspirational to come to. They seem like annoying people that if they were ahead of you in Starbucks would take 20 minutes to order a cup of coffee. And it's like, that's not superhero characteristics. Heroism, strength, sacrifice, making tough decisions, life experience, that's what makes a good character, not being an annoying prick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like we have like the rise of anti-heroes starting from the 70s, and then eventually these creators like, hey, let's make the anti-hero the hero, which that doesn't really work. Like, I love anti-heroes, they're cool, but like, you know, I don't want them to be the mainstream heroes. Like, you know, anti-heroes are anti-heroes, heroes are heroes, and people kind of conflate the two nowadays.
Yes, and on the flip side, we've also now got the trend of the sympathetic villain as well. Whereas in the past we had villains and we loved villains because of they were the bad guy, and people really do like gravitating towards bad guys. But now all these villains, they have to have a sympathetic backstory, and you have to know why they do the things they do and how they became these awful people.
Yeah, I can't wait in Kenobi when we have a quiet moment where Vader takes his helmet off and has a cup of chamomile tea and starts reading Toni Morrison and pining for the fact that
everybody hurts.
That's it. Yeah, listen Robert Stife. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Or Alanis Morissette. You know, you think I'm kidding, but it's like somehow we have to deconstruct everything. That's the problem. Pretty much is they know how to take things apart, but they don't know how to put them together. And so they're leaving things just in pieces.
It's like they have an obsession with being a blunt instrument. You know, and it's kind of more like everyone wants to be the sledgehammer, no one wants to be the scalpel. You know, it's like we have all these problems in the world. People just want to like take a sledgehammer to it, when what we really need is a scalpel to kind of take the tumors out. But no one wants to be a scalpel, because being a scalpel is really hard. Whereas being a sledgehammer, it's really easy to be a sledgehammer, really fun to break stuff, but like very delicately kind of cut out what needs to be cut. That takes effort.
Yes, and we've seen it, with characters that have been race swapped, gender swapped. It's at least to me, it's a very lazy way of doing it. And we've heard the criticisms before, why don't you use this character instead of, changing this character? And we still get the same response every time. People don't gravitate towards this particular character. They prefer, say Superman. Well, they wouldn't gravitate towards the black Superman, even though there are black Superman characters.
Yeah. Boy, that's something that disappeared real quick, didn't it? J.J. Abrams, his people are everywhere, and we won't talk about it, but they are everywhere, including Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, every damn element, everywhere.
That thing is going to flop so bad. It's going to
And then we've got, the most patriotic guy ever, Ta-Nehisi Coates, writing about Superman. And that what's going to happen with that? I heard that Ta-Nehisi Coates finished his script. This is a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't cover it because I genuinely despise all of this. But we'll see. We'll see. Are we really going to take Superman and use the same narrative that was pushed during the mostly peaceful everything is on fire summer a year or two ago and think that somehow that's going to be a blockbuster winner? I don't think so.
I can't imagine it.
I mean, this is the same company that thought Captain America saying Hail Hydra was a good idea.
Yes, exactly. Yes, the most patriotic hero that you can think of. It's absolute insanity.
Yeah, I do like the way they handled it in Endgame, like the way they kind of had him say Hail Hydra to get out of it. That was clever. I like that. That was a cool moment, but the way we got to it was kind of effed up.
That I would agree with. Let me just say a huge thank you and hello to Tim on Flip. Great to see you. He says, the end for Marvel started in 2004 with Straczynski's Sins Past, making Gwen Stacy having an affair and children with Norman Osborn. Then one more day, it was all downhill from there.
I saw all this on General Hospital back in the 80s. I mean, my mom used to watch these stories. They were called soap operas. And a lot of people made fun of them, and they were made for housewives who maybe wanted to borrow a phrase from a good friend of Purple's, heel versus babyface, to flick their bean too. You know, now we've got comic books that the only beans that would be flicked would say a if you're eating Taco Bell and something fell in your shirt, you'd flick the bean off of it. But I don't see any other bean flicking for any of this, emotionally or creatively. I know I'm good, right? Good allegory.
Very, very good.
That's a good analogy. And
your lady certainly doesn't have to flick her bean, that's for sure.
Boom chicka wah wah.
And we've got some great comments in the chat coming up as well. Monkey Jeebus says it's funny how Young Ripper is boycott the mainstream media, yet still advertises them. Yeah, I don't, would put down any other content creator.
Nope.
Everybody is absolutely free to talk about whatever they like and support whatever they like. That's not what we're about here. I would never say to somebody, do not buy this because I don't like it. That's not what we do.
There's a lot of good with all of those characters, though.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much good. There's so many good comic books. There's so many good stories from before. And before is meaning quite literally 10, 15 years before now. Like the world that I grew up in, none of this nonsense existed. And if you would have ever said, well, we're going to turn Robin gay and we're going to have Aqualad have sex with fish, people would have laughed at you. They really would have. And you would have never gotten a job in the industry. Yeah. And Batman was always the brooding, and to borrow the term that Max Field von Priestley, the one and only MV Penis, uses, is the street level hero. Everybody loves that street level hero, like Batman, like Wolverine, like Hawkeye. And those were the stories that a lot of us gravitated toward. And I mean, again, it's just like Nick said, it's like we've said, these characters were well written, there was nuance, and they had heart. And now it's just ideology again with a Mylar candy bar wrapper around it with the label of Batman. So I don't have any problem with anybody celebrating and loving things from the past, because believe it or not, that past in all of those characters existed and were unmolested and untainted for more time than they have been tainted by current year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Like, for example, I'll always have this, like they can't take this away from me.
Oh, Nightwing. Nice.
Yeah. Written by the great Chuck Dixon.
Huge fan of Chuck Dixon.
I actually got to interview him earlier this week. It was really great.
I've heard he's a great guy to talk to. Yeah, I've seen a lot of interviews with him. Very, very down to earth.
You should get him on the show. It'd be great.
That would be amazing. We're getting ready to kind of wind down, but what I wanted to talk about, because you are a comic book creator, you are somebody who knows what they're talking about. Could we just talk a little bit about your project before we?
I'd love to.
Yeah, awesome. All right, let me just bring it up and I'll just get you to talk a little bit about it from a creative perspective. That would be amazing.
And Purple, let me just jump in here. Nick, no disrespect, but I don't know anything about your project. I just looked at some of your artwork and I'm going to say that looks damn good. Can you give me that 3-minute elevator speech as to what it's about? Because I don't know about your work, sir.
Well, let me do my best trailer voice. In a world devastated by electronic warfare, where all devices are at a premium, you'll see Apple IIs mixed with iPads, Commodore 64s mixed with modern-day Androids. It is this world that our intrepid hero, Kyo Earthbringer, finds himself in, a samurai from the past, transported to the cyberpunk future of 2100.
Wow.
Finding himself alone, he must make his way in this alien world that he knows nothing about.
Wow. Dude, great take. Great take.
Thanks. I was kind of riffing there a little bit, so yeah.
That is awesome. And yeah, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when you were talking about the passion that you had for creating this and the work and that went into it. But I absolutely love this character design.
Thank you. I work with some really talented people.
Nick, were you a fan, and forgive my ignorance, of William Gibson's The Neuromancer, of that type of stuff, of cyberpunk fiction? Was that
I
part of what
am.
you drew from?
Yeah, William Gibson, basically the main three I drew from were Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell, and Batman Beyond.
Roger that. Okay.
But yeah, I have read Neuromancer, and it is awesome.
Yeah, that's a great story. I remember reading
is.
that in 1982 when it seemed so impossible, and now virtually everything from that book is now real. Talk about
including the dystopian, including the hellscape and the dystopian governments. We are living in the cyberpunk future, so congratulations, everybody.
Yeah,
y'all fucked it up.
Somehow I thought that living in this dystopian future would be a little bit more interesting. I don't know about you guys. It's
where's my flying car?
Exactly.
I know. I want my Rosie the butler, robot. That's what I want.
But yeah, this is incredible. I absolutely love the idea, and you're doing very well with it. This is issue 2, isn't it? Issue 1 did incredibly well as well.
Yeah, I sold out of the first. Hey, I don't mind it. It just says how well my comic is. Why isn't anyone just whelmed? I mean, you got overwhelmed. Why aren't people just whelmed?
Well, what was your inspiration, Nick? What drove you, or what was the seed that germinated into this comic book and this character?
Basically, I had watched Matrix way too many times. And it got to the point where I was playing the fights in my head, and I could choreograph Matrix style fights. And I think probably I watched The Last Samurai, the Tom Cruise film, which kind of I created this around 2006 or so that film was still probably relatively new in my head. And I just kind of basically mashed up all my favorite things. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Kind of sprinkle in some of my own creation, some crack cocaine, and yeah, we're good.
Yeah. What could go wrong with any of that? Yeah.
You can't forget the crack cocaine. That's the secret ingredient. I say it's love, but it's really crack cocaine.
That's from the...
Well, if you gave it to Payne and McKay, we might actually get some Tolkien in the Lord of the Rings. I'm just going to say that. I'm not advocating for it, but maybe a little...
I'll send them a baggie.
Okay, see
what happens.
Nick, we can be friends. You're cool. I agree. That's awesome.
And Daniel, thank you again. Much appreciated. Says Batman Beyond vibes made me have feelings again. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. That's one of my favorite Batman cartoons. I love Terry McGinnis and all that stuff. It's just a really good show. I have all 3 seasons on DVD.
It really is. Yeah, it is a great show. I grew up watching, obviously, Batman the Animated and then Justice League, but they were fantastic cartoons. So just before we do wrap up, I mean, obviously, this is still going at the moment. Funding is still available. It says we've got 17 days left. That's awesome. Still got a while to go.
Nick, what is it that people should know about issue 2 to get excited about? Is there new characters? Is there a new arc? Is it continuing what happened in the first issue? Because I'm going to go and I'm going to check this out as soon as we're done.
So it picks up right where issue 1 left off, and Hiro came here with Mishi, and now Mishi is missing. Some stuff happens in issue 1. It came out a year ago, but a lot of people are getting introduced to this for the first time, so I'm not going to really say what it is. So Mishi's missing. So Kiro's on his own. He meets this woman named Tyler, and they're kind of getting used to each other. They kind of basically you got a yin and yang scenario where Tyler's street smart, Kiro's kind of the muscle, and they need each other and whatnot to function better. It's kind of what it develops. And then these first 2 issues, I've kind of basically written a 2-part television pilot. And then at the end of issue 2, you'll have the status quo will be established. There's kind of a big twist where people reappear, and there's a really big really cool train fight at the end that I had a lot of fun writing, and the artist just did a perfect job.
Awesome.
Awesome. And I love the passion when you talk about this. This is what we were talking about, pretty much throughout the show. This is what we need. And this is why independent creators are doing so well. You have this vision of something that you want to create and you actually go out there and do it. And I absolutely take my hat off to you and to people that can do this.
Yeah, the other thing too was not once did I hear Nick tell me who to vote for or what social cause to hashtag out on Twitter or that I'm bad. It's just Nick, you got a winning marketing plan already, dude. You just love what you do and you're excited about it.
Wait. So you're saying by just loving what I do and telling good stories and not like disparaging my audience that is what I need to do? Holy shit! Like, holy motherfucking shit, that is a revelation! Oh
Marvel,
my God!
Marvel and DC should hire you as the vice president of marketing right now if they want to save their companies.
Fucking make me CEO of Disney. I'll write that ship in 5 minutes.
We've got a question from Paul Cook. He says, is the artwork in red, black and white?
It should be.
It is. Okay, cool. So
no, it isn't, but it should be.
Okay.
I was trying to say. I was like trying to say that's a good idea.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to be humorous about it, but like, yeah.
I love it. Like I said, we were talking about it just a couple of weeks ago, and the passion in your voice really came through, and I really hope that you do incredibly well with this. So thank you for joining us.
It's done really well so far, and then people have really supported it a lot so far, and I'm just honestly really grateful for where it's gotten so far. Just want to kind of say thank you to everyone who supported it. You guys are awesome. I love you. You guys aren't evil. You're actually really cool, so thank you.
It's really that simple. Don't be a dick, and people will buy your work if it's good. What a novel concept.
It's incredible. Before we do let people go on their way and get on with their Friday, what have you guys got coming up?
Go ahead, Nick.
I got more interviews. I'm working on a YouTube video. I kind of alluded to that earlier. And yeah, I got a super secret project I'm working on. You guys see that in October. It's going to be really good. I think Purple will like it. And
nice.
Yeah, just continue to be awesome.
Absolutely. Guys, the links are in the description below. Brandon has been kindly putting the links out as well. So thank you for that. Really appreciate that. Salty, what about you? I know you just had a video that's just been released.
Yeah, I had a video that I dropped a couple of minutes before this show, so it didn't overrun the lovely Purple. And go check that one out. It's actually a great, funny, and really, I would say, intelligent discussion of the crap we're getting from Amazon with those two crazy pictures of non-Tolkien characters. Of course, we have our Tuesday show that Purple, Maxfield Von Priestley, as well as Zach's are on every Tuesday. Wednesday nights, we are doing the Woo Woo Show, which last week, if you haven't checked it out, we looked at real photos and video footage of UFOs in Alaska, as well as almost 2,000 pages of documents dumped by the Pentagon on UFO-related injuries. And Purple was incredibly excited about that and part of all of that stuff. And let me just shout you out, Purple. Exactly. Yes, work on your X-Files theme. You're close.
Yeah. My whistling needs some work.
Purple is almost at 2K. She is like a biscuit. She's a cookie crumb from 2K. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to Purple Valkyrie.
Will somebody please get this woman to 2K?
Yeah.
Well, we are all incredibly close. We've had some people. Max has just hit over a K. I'm really proud of him. Salty is being too modest because he is right there as well. I think he's like 3 away or something silly.
8 away from 2,000. Yes.
And Daniel says, I like anything that gets Purple more excited. Good to know. But yeah, having an absolute blast getting to do these shows, getting to work with fantastic content creators like Salty and like Nick. We have so many talented people on this platform. We're just having an absolute blast. So thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for the invite today. This was fun.
This was fun.
Yeah, I had a great time. Sorry I was late. I got the time mixed up, but seems like we all kind of, got it together really well. And thank you, Purple. It was an honor to be on the show. Thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you. And anytime you'd like to come back to talk comics, I would love to have you back. Absolutely.
Oh, just you wait. I'll take you up on that offer.
Malik, great to see you. Says, when will we be discussing about the paranormal? Well, that is on Salty's channel. That will be pretty much. I think we're going to try for every Wednesday. Do you think, Salty?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, absolutely. And go check it out. It's called The Woo Woo Show. It's in my folder, but it has been rebranded to Paranormal or Phenomenal Passport to the Paranormal. And that is something that Purple Valkyrie and I came up with together. Please go check it out.
Me interested.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a really good show because people seem to really like the talking paranormal. So I think it's going to take off. And I am, as Daniel said, excited about it. But let me say a massive thank you to my co-host today. A huge, huge thank you to everybody in the chat. You guys were on absolute fire today. We had some incredible comments, so many that I couldn't catch them all. But thank you guys so much for joining us today. Had a fantastic show getting to chat with you all about a subject that I'm really passionate about. So we might have to do a part 2 of this down the line. That would be a lot of fun, I think. A massive thank you to everybody who sent super chats, who sent super stickers. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much. Hopefully I will be back on Sunday with a interview show that got postponed, so keep an eye out for that. I will update as soon as I know more. If not, we will be back on Monday morning talking pop culture and anything else that catches our eye. No doubt next week we will be talking a lot about the Northman because more people will have seen it, and fingers crossed this weekend I'm going to see the new Nicolas Cage film as well. Looking forward to that.
Awesome.
So lots of fun stuff coming up, guys. Have a fantastic rest of your Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. Support all your favorite content creators, and no doubt we will see each other very, very soon. Thank you all.
Bye.
Take care.